Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into a new edition of Batter Up, sponsored by Halpern's Cards and Collectibles here on the Sports Insanity Network. I'm Mike Griffin, joined by my guy, Danny Boy Reginald Dan Ryans, and the man himself, the old ops guy, Mark Halpern.
Morning.
Gentlemen, how we doing?
Well, my kids are hoping we get this done within under 2 hours so they can get to the pool. So I think we're good.
We will keep this under 2 hours so your kids can go swimming.
Yes.
It's a very good pool day for sure.
Yes.
I mean, now that you could actually go outside after the past couple of days, where it's been
God, it was horrible. It was horrible up here.
It was really bad, yeah. Dan, did you have the issue with the Canadian wildfires as well?
We were code purple on Thursday, and then code like orange and red Friday. So it was forecast as a red, but we were actually orange, and then we cleared up by the weekend. But yeah, I mean, it was brutal down here too. I mean, I had a mask up. I smelled that smoke. I mean, it was just god awful. I know it wasn't as bad as New York, which had the absolute worst levels possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, still in DC, it was pretty dangerous, and nobody was recommended to do outside. Kind of sucked because I wanted to exercise outside, but it is what it is. You know, you guys, you can't control when a wildfire happens, but we hope everyone over in Quebec is doing well.
Yes,
with that.
100%. Everyone here, we hope everyone here is doing well as well.
Yeah.
But Mark, since you brought it up, but before we dive into baseball, I have to know: is this an in-ground, above-ground pool? Where are we here with swimming?
Oh, this is supplied by the complex. It's an in-ground pool. The kids have a great time, and only people from the complex can be here, so it doesn't get too crowded.
Okay, nice. All right. Yeah, people, I had to ask, who doesn't love a good pool day?
Exactly.
All right. Today's show, we're going to talk a lot. First edition of the Subway Series is coming up this week, Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll talk some other series. Rays are playing the third game of their series this afternoon. That's been a interesting series split. But Mark, Dan and I talked about this on Wednesday, so I'll get your thoughts here. Jacob deGrom, Met legend, Tommy John surgery. Your thoughts there?
I mean, obviously, as one of the bigger Mets fans in this group, to see a former player with his type of stature and his type of capability yet again face another year off, and then most of, if not all of next year, you have to think that whoever Steve Cohen has on the payroll for medical knowledge has the right people, because someone told him and warned him about deGrom, someone warned him about Syndergaard, someone warned him about Correa, and they've been right 3 straight times. So it's upsetting because I love deGrom, but is it now finally time that, since his first actual action won't be until 2025, is he going to be even salvageable?
He can always be salvageable, but the thing is that this is Tommy John. This is his second Tommy John.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you have it once, now I know it was at least 10, 11 years ago.
It was in the minor leagues.
Yeah. So I know it's been a while. And of course, obviously, it has done wonders for his career, because he had a great career with the Mets, and was actually doing very well with the Rangers.
Yeah.
Before he got hurt. Thing is that he's gonna be mid-30s, near 40 by the time he gets out of this little funk. So now you have your second Tommy John in your 30s for a career that you're pretty much trying to save the Hall of Fame career, basically. that's a tough deal. That is a very tough deal. It is a gruesome rehab. It is something that you never want to go through as a pitcher. A lot of pitchers have to go through it. And sometimes, I don't know if that arm is ever going to be the same. Velocity never be the same. The way he pitches,
Right.
be the same because you're trying to avoid the injury. So it's a tough one to swallow if you're Texas. Tough one to swallow if you're deGrom because that elbow's worth millions of dollars and it's now going down. Well, it's not going down drain for Texas. You're still going to get that money, but still it's just frustrating for a good pitcher like him to deal with that.
And to your point, he'll be 35 next week, or rather, this upcoming. No, yeah, a week from tomorrow, he'll be 35.
And that means the next time he'll be on a mound is possibly when he's 37.
37. So
we've seen some old players from the sport and other sports go long distances, but pitchers are such a different caliber. Nobody's like Nolan Ryan anymore.
I wondered this, and I kind of shrugged it off when I had the conversation with people when talking about if the Mets bring him back. What if you turn him into a closer? One inning, he's not going to go 3 straight days regardless. John Smoltz did it. It's been proven that it can be done. I just don't know if he's going to want to do it. That's what it comes down to. Do you want to do it? Because Texas is going to pay you whatever's left of the contract regardless. But if you turn him into a closer, you know what he's coming with.
It's an interesting idea because I'm assuming Texas still has at least someone in the farm system, or if not someone in the farm system, they certainly have the money to get another pitcher or trade for another pitcher and then pay more later, and put that guy at the top of the rotation. So, deGrom's easily replaceable. And if that's the case, do you do something like that, make him a reliever and, hope for the best that you could salvage some part of that contract or just some of his play? It's an intriguing idea. Now the question of whether deGrom will go for it. Look, if he plays, I don't think he cares how much he plays. We've seen, these type of acts. You mentioned Smoltz, who was a terrific reliever at the end of his career. He was actually really good at it. Obviously, his best stuff was when he was starting, but of course, things change. Scherzer's done it before, and look, it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case. And look, I just think eventually he just wants to play. So whatever the Texas Rangers want to do, fine. But obviously the biggest track for him right now is to get back to being in good starting form. And you hope for the best.
And if he can't, you have that option like the Braves did with Smoltz. But I really don't think deGrom can turn into what Smoltz was after the 2 Tommy John surgeries.
Now let's wait and see. And Dan, to your point about the minor leagues, the Rangers did draft Al Leiter's son Jack a couple of years ago. So depending on where he's at now, I'm not sure if that's AA or AAA, but that could be the guy on the horizon for the Texas Rangers. So
I mean, you would think the Texas Rangers would have learned after saying, hey, look, the Mets didn't want Kumar Rocker. Now they don't want deGrom either. Let's get them both. Now they're both Tommy John surgery.
You know what I've always wondered about Texas, and this is just not a deGrom thing. They need a Chuck Norris night where they could just be called the Walker Texas Rangers. That's what they need. All right. So all the best to Jacob deGrom in his recovery from his second Tommy John, which I believe he'll undergo at some point this week. But as I mentioned before, we're going to go heavy on the Subway Series because we have a couple of Mets fans in here and a Yankees fan. But the big news out of the Subway Series is not that the star power is gone, but the two biggest stars won't play in this week's series.
Sure.
Aaron Judge is on the IL with a toe injury after that great catch he made against the Dodgers. And Pete Alonso was placed on the IL, I think, for the first time in his career, with a bone bruise in his wrist and a sprained wrist after getting hit by a Charlie Morton fastball the other night.
On purpose.
Yes.
You think it was on purpose?
Absolutely.
Okay.
They threw
On
him up
purpose.
tight and in the at bat before. Sorry, Dan.
Come on now. You can't be on a hot mic like Pete Alonso was, and for the Braves not to, look at that. It's all right. You can't tell me that the Braves just ignored him and be like, okay, we're just gonna go ahead. No. They heard exactly what he said, and they threw at him.
Right. But now it's also possibly going to be investigated and could end up with a 1-game suspension for Charlie Morton.
Yeah.
You want to know what? He threw up and in. Pete got hit. I was pissed. Believe me, I was pissed. I still am.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been worse. It could have been a broken wrist, and that would have been the entire season. It's not like the Mets are in first place by 30 games. So we're going to miss Pete Alonso for the next 3 to 4 weeks. It's not great, but something good is going to come out of it. And then Mark Vientos is going to play every day.
Yeah. And that's the positive. Now you have no choice but to play a Vientos. Because who else are you going to throw out there? We'll go back.
Nope. He's gone. He's going to be gone.
Like, when are we DFAing? Like now?
Soon as possible.
Like
bring up Mauricio in his place. I don't care.
Mauricio, who's killing it in the minor leagues still.
Yep, bring them all up.
Yeah. So that's a huge loss for the Mets, but obviously not the end of the world because the Yankees aren't necessarily doing well either. So it's a-okay for both teams that they're at the same level that they are. Yankees had a tough series against the White Sox. They're facing the Red Sox where they split so far. And going into the Subway Series this week, it sucks that there's not going to be the big sluggers.
Yeah.
Right.
It really is. By the way, another thing, that Dodger Stadium wall, like, what the hell was that about? How in the world is that like not straight up like a wall? What's this cage thing where we're concrete?
Listen, I don't want to hear about the Dodger Stadium cages because it totally ruined the Met career of Jason Bay as well.
Yeah.
So Dodger Stadium is, as much as I'd like to see it,
the field of pain.
It's a brutal stadium. So you can't make that improvement. Like, come on now.
But now it's for the Yankees with the law. I mean, Aaron Judge is a huge loss for a Yankees lineup that was built around him. But it was nice to see Glaber hit one yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see. I mean, both teams just lost one team lost their superstar. The Mets lost one of their superstars. So right now going into this series, it's an even scale for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty interesting. I will say the Yankees, they have some good pop in their lineup. Volpe, he can swing. He can slug that ball like crazy. Obviously, Glaber has done pretty well this year. Not the greatest, but he's done fairly well, and that's a good sign to see. This Bowers guy. I mean, oh my goodness! Like this dude making me cry a little bit with the way he's playing. It's absolutely terrific. Donaldson has not complained once ever since coming back, and he's played very well. So there are some parts of the lineup, and then of course your everyday players. There are some parts of the lineup that are doing pretty well in the absence of Judge, but it's not enough because they couldn't beat the White Sox and they already lost the game to the Red Sox. So not something you want to see.
And the pitching matchups, I don't believe the Yankees have announced a guy for Tuesday, but that whoever that'll be will go up against Max Scherzer.
Yeah.
Wednesday will be Luis Severino against Justin
Oh,
Verlander, who
That's already a loss.
needs a bounce back start in the worst possible way. Both of them do.
Verlander loves playing the Yankees.
Yes, he
kill
does.
the Yankees. Severino stinks. He is terrible. Can we please get him off the rotation? Please.
I'll take him.
You would take Severino.
I would take that. I still think there's something there.
There might be something there, but not high level enough to play on the superstar team like the Yankees or the Mets.
Listen, he could have Carrasco's spot in the rotation or Miguel's spot in the Met rotation. I don't care.
I'd rather take Cookie over Severino right now.
Well, if we're talking cookies, what are we talking? Oatmeal, raisin, chocolate. Shit, we got to talk cookies.
Snickers, baby.
Mark, I made this point on SIP earlier this week after the Alonso thing went down. I think the guy the Mets have to get going, it's not Lindor, it's not even Marte or Canner, guys like it has to be Jeff McNeil. And it's not the Jeff McNeil who hits 23 homers. It has to be Jeff McNeil from last year when he hit over 300 and won the batting title.
So McNeil's batting nothing horribly right now. He's batting 274, 275, I believe. And it's just been it hasn't been a noticeable season for somebody who's coming off of what he accomplished last year. McNeil is kind of lost, and it's not in the lineup. It's in the field, because whether he's going to second, whether he's going to left, whether he's DHing, I think they need to get him on a constant schedule of what he needs to do so he can get in his right mind. I mean, the single from Vientos that he scored on the other day, I don't care. Mike, I swear the man looked like he was running in place. You or Dan could have outran him from second to home.
Listen, I got Ricky Henderson like speed, so I don't want to hear from you, man.
But
you go back to my Little League days, I was Ricky Henderson.
The person for me on the Mets team who needs to step up is the name you said in the beginning, and that you said it's not. It's Lindor. Lindor, yes, when he came over from Cleveland, hitting 20 to 25 home runs, 80 RBIs, 90. That's when he was at the top of the order in batting. He's now being relied on at third and fourth, where it drives in runs. He's got to get that putrid 218 up by the All-Star break to at least 255, 260. And that's not an easy task.
Not saying that Francisco Lindor isn't getting paid what he's earned. Obviously, he's definitely earned that contract. But I'm starting to think the Mets kind of jumped the gun on the money, because if he's going to give you this lackluster performance all season, and then for seasons to come, that's a problem for the Mets, because you're investing heavily onto a guy obviously could can kill it when he wants to, when he's good and all, but when he's like this bad, it's pretty remarkable.
And it's baseball. It's the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs. It's just what it is. But I don't want to necessarily say they jumped the gun on it, because they had to make the move. They had to make the move because it was Steve Cohen's first move. And then they went about it, I think, the right way, because they were like, if he doesn't re-sign, we just gave up two guys who could replace him and some young pitch. So they had to pay him what they felt it was worth. And looking what the shortstop market is with guys like Seager and Trey Turner and what they've gotten over the years. And hey, a guy who's not even playing shortstop anymore, Fernando Tatis Jr., who kind of set the mark. They had to do it. Does he have to step up? Yeah, but I think the Met lineup as a whole is the thing. Needs to step up without their biggest power source out the next month.
Yeah, I mean, I know for sure Nimmo, he's struggled a bit.
He looks like he's getting back on track. He had a
getting back
couple
on
of nice
but
plays yesterday.
fair enough. Overall, though, he has not been good.
Mm.
Marte's not the same.
No, he's had
playing,
a bad year.
which definitely a concerning sight because you also paid a lot for him, and it's looking like age is starting to catch up to him. He's not the superhuman type of thing. So that's another one. But then now, of course, if you really want things to get going, the young kids got to do it. You got to rely on these kids. Alvarez has been tremendous.
Oh,
Yes.
Absolutely tremendous.
Stupid power.
Yeah. Vientos, now that he's going to get more playing time, I mean, he was killing it before when he was, a young lad in minor leagues. And now all of a sudden he's up here doing his thing. Beatty, he's up and down, but I think he's been,
he's been good for the most part.
Good for the most part.
Yeah.
I would say so. And then, of course, if you get Ronnie Mauricio here, now you got a whole lineup stacked with young players that are good, that could possibly save some part of the season. Look, you don't have to win the division now to even make it to the World Series here. So, this could be a little bit the saving grace. Of course, the National League wild card, it's a very hard wild card because there's a lot of good National League teams out there.
If the Mets wanted to do anything, Mike, Dan, I have it. I finally got it. We're going to take a play out of the Major League movie. We're going to have Steve Cohen dressed in a suit, and every loss, they're going to remove a piece. So every time they lose, they're going to strip Steve Cohen, and the players are going to have to look at it. So this is the incentive to win, and I swear we are live. The Mets are not a sponsor. There it is. That's how we get on track. No offense to Steve Cohen. I'm sure you have a great body, but that's not mine to comment on.
So here's my follow-up to that, because I don't think you're wrong. Who's the Jake Taylor of the Mets?
That's Navarez. He's the oldest.
Oh my God. Subway Series this week. I expect a good series. I expect a very it's gonna be two mediocre teams. I mean, what can you ask for?
Well, the difference is, yes, two mediocre teams, except the Mets are throwing pitchers 1 and 2. The Yankees are throwing 11 and 12.
Yeah, but you know what? Here's the thing. Obviously, Scherzer and Verlander, they've been up and down. Verlander's been of late, and he had a really bad start his last outing.
He did.
Yeah,
very concerning. Look, to me that the pitching matchup really isn't that far off. It's about even because of the performances they're giving you.
Fair enough.
So,
and if Severino's on his game, he's good.
Yeah,
he's good enough.
And look, and that's the thing. I want Severino to be good. I want for him to show something, but it's been rough for him. It has been really rough to watch him. That Dodger game really, really, really made me upset. And I know the Dodgers are better than Severino overall. Like they can kick his ass. But man, watching that, it's we invested heavily into this guy, not necessarily money wise, but certainly playing time wise. We invested into this guy. So I want him to be the guy eventually. Middle rotation guy, but he doesn't play like it. Tough. I almost say, hey, let's put Domingo Germán. The Domingo Germán. Excuse me.
He pitched. Speaking of, he pitched pretty well last.
Domingo Germán. I can't speak today, but I'd rather put him.
He pitched pretty well against the Red Sox the other night.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. So speaking of the Subway Series, I wanted to do a fun exercise, and I want to do it while we still have Dan here for the time being. To create the ultimate Subway Series lineup, but it has to use players who've played in the rivalry. So you can't use guys like DiMaggio and Mantle and Babe Ruth and Tom Seaver. But, you know, we can have fun with this. So
Yes, we can.
Mark, I'll start with you. How would you line this thing up?
All right. Well, obviously, I'm speaking for the Mets here because.
Well, you can use either team. I don't care.
Oh, I'm doing the Mets because if I do the Yankees, something wrong with me. No offense, Dan. All right. Well, there is going to be no secret that I'm going to tell you my catcher is Mike Piazza. That's easy.
Mhm.
I'm just going to go around the horn here. You're going to have Mike Piazza. You're going to have David Wright. You're going to have Francisco Lindor. Yes, I value him over Jose Reyes.
Ooh.
Okay, at second base, you have the great Happy Days man himself, Fonzie. First base, and I will say it because I was there in the lower section and watched Carlos Delgado get 12 RBIs against the Yankees. I was at the game, and it was absolutely worth it. Going into the outfield, this is where it got a little tough because of everything that's out there right now. Beltran is my center fielder. Now you have right and left. You have the two corner spots. And like Mike said, we can only use players who have been in here. So it's going to be a little bit of a surprise that my right fielder is the person who it is today, is Starling Marte. Okay. I think he's just the better all around, and
he's the best option.
In left field, it's so hard, but you know who I'm gonna put there? Lucas friggin' Duda. Because when he played the Yankees, the guy hit home runs. So Lucas Duda is in left field, and then as my DH, there is no other thinking of it in my mind. It's Mr. Robin Ventura. And then my starting pitcher is none other than number 45, Pedro Martinez.
Okay. I would ask you on Reyes versus Lindor, but I understand because of the game a couple of years ago makes sense. Dan, how would you go about this?
So
if you want to go all Yankees because Mark went all Mets, you can, but
well, I wasn't going to.
Okay, go with what you got to go with.
Well, for my catcher, it's going to be Piazza.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Jorge was a better catcher than Piazza, I have Piazza because of his bat. Let's see. First baseman, I'll put Tino.
Okay.
Is there. Second base is a tough one, but I feel like putting Cano there because he's played for both would be beneficial, and he was a great second baseman. Jeter at third. I'll put Jeter at shortstop, right at third. I jumped the gun there.
Mm-hmm.
Then your outfielders, Judge is in center. I'm going to do that. I'm going to put, let me see who's a good right fielder. I'm sort of thinking this on the fly, so please forgive me. I'll put Gardy in left field. Let's do in left field. He's a better left fielder. Judge in center, and then your right fielder, I will put Sir Conforto.
Mikey C.
And that's my lineup.
Who would you put at DH?
Designated hitter, Alex Rodriguez.
Okay.
And
they should have shot A-Rod.
And my starting pitcher is none other than the great CC Sabathia.
Oh, CC.
All right. I'm with them. I went Piazza behind the plate. 317, 8 homers, 25 RBIs against the Yankees as a Met. At first base, I wanted to put Pete there. I did, but I didn't. I went Mark Teixeira.
Okay, I like Mark.
Teixeira, I always felt he was one of the biggest cogs in 09, despite other circumstances, but he's at first. Second base, I'm putting Alfonso Soriano.
See, if I was doing the mix, I did have him in on the mix.
You know, I didn't want that steroid-infested Robinson Cano interfering in this lineup. Shortstop is Jeter. I don't think there's a comparison. He was the definition of a Met killer. David Wright at third base. My outfield, I'm putting Judge in left. I'm putting Carlos Beltran in right. And I'm putting Bernie Williams in center field.
And no arm. I love Bernie Williams, met the guy up beyond handful of night. He just did not have an arm, in my opinion.
But he could hit.
He could hit.
He could
Absolutely.
hit.
Bernie, look, and people always talk about the core four within those World Series runs and stuff. Bernie Williams was a huge part of the
100%.
Like you can't talk about that history, 90s, 2000s Yankees without Bernie Williams. It's impossible.
He was so good. And he was underrated because he wasn't a superstar on those teams.
Exactly.
And that's another good point. But also, he was a good fielder.
Yeah.
He could track down a ball in the outfield just as good as anybody. The only problem was if it was a long ball hit to center field, then Yankee Stadium plays 410 to that wall. If you had a runner on first with good speed, let's just say who it is, Trey Turner, that person's making it first to third before that ball made it back to the infield.
Yeah, so Bernie, I'm gonna put Pete as my DH. The starting pitcher is hard just because the Mets have had an abundance of it, but no one ever really stacked up to the Yankees. So I'm going to have Andy Pettitte as my starting pitcher.
That's a great. He was fantastic.
Best move to first base
big
ever.
Game pitcher.
As a pitcher.
I know the HGH stuff had come out, but
bullshit. He belongs.
Listen, I loved Andy Pettitte, so
bullshit.
Name me another pitcher.
He was the one guy in the Yankee rotation I wouldn't root against because I liked Andy Pettitte.
He
also had the greatest pickoff.
He rehab from an injury, and there's nothing wrong with using drugs to rehab from an injury.
Trust me, I use plenty. All legal, but plenty.
The other part is I was tempted to put Clemens as my starter just to see how the dynamic between him and Piazza would work.
I don't know.
No.
I'm trying. Dare put Roger Clemens. Any of you two did, it would have been a very, very weird live moment here on SIN.
And by the way, Roger Clemens did not throw at Piazza.
He threw the bat at him.
He threw the bat at him. I don't think he intended to hit Piazza in the head with the pitch. I don't believe he did. I believe he tried to back him off the plate and the pitch came very inside. But don't tell me the bat barrel he thought was the ball.
That is still one of the greatest things about the rivalry is that moment will last forever.
And, there are many big moments in the Mets Yankees series. How about David Wright off Mariano Rivera over Williams' head? To win
No, that was Johnny Damon.
Was that over Damon? Okay, over Damon.
Johnny Damon.
Yes, it was.
The countless games that the Mets and Yankees have played over the last decade or more. There's rarely been a blowout. It is always entertaining, and it's not always the players that are entertaining. Sit down and listen to the stadium.
Yeah.
That's some funny crap. You have never heard a city unite more about liking a team and hating a team ever. It's basically the tastes great, less filling argument all over again.
I've never seen a Met Yankee game in person, so
it's so much fun.
Yeah.
The best one was when, Masato Yoshii stole home and won it.
My favorite moment will still be, because I'm a loyal supporter of this guy, Jason Bay's walk off against Mariano Rivera. It's his only defining moment as a Met, but Jason Bay dropped twice.
Mind you, I saw Delgado do what he did, but you want to know what the one memory of all the Mets Yankee games, including World Series, that sticks into my head and makes me sick every time? Is the first pitch to Jeter going over the left field wall. That is still the memory that is burned into my head.
Yeah. Now, of course, for me, it's the World Series championship. There's just no other way to put about it. But a close second, that Luis Castillo drop. Man.
Oh my!
I still have no clue what the hell he was doing.
I lost $500 on that drop alone.
Listen, that was a bad night, because that same night the Pittsburgh Penguins won the Stanley Cup, and I was not a happy man.
No one knows.
So,
oh god,
Luis Castillo, learn to use two hands. By the way, the hustle by Teixeira on that play is the thing that's most.
And that's the big thing, How do you let 2 runs score on that? Well, I can understand the game being tied. Okay, it is what it is. 2 runs scored on that. Like, there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse.
No.
You want to know what no
Jerry
excuse
Manuel
is?
Mets.
Dropping the damn ball.
Yeah. Well, drop balls happen. It's bad, but it happens. It happens. You cannot let all those runs score. Again.
No.
That's the bigger one. Is you can't let that run score. You gotta at least keep it tied. Good stuff.
The Jerry Manuel Mets.
Awful. Worse than the Willie Randolph Mets.
Well, the Willie Randolph Mets were good.
Exactly. They fired
Willie Randolph in Anaheim for no reason.
Because they ended up making the playoff run anyway.
Oh, we got so caught up inside.
Willie Randolph, a great Yankee, always a
great Met manager,
and great Met manager. And I am shocked that man has not gotten another lap.
Yeah, that just seems.
I don't think
weird.
he wants to. I don't think it's the question of offers. I just don't think he wants to anymore.
Well, at least not anymore. But back then, I would think,
he should have. Yes.
Yeah, somebody.
Is he with the team right now? Do we know?
Probably not. He's like an advisor or whatever. I don't know.
Let's see. But
he's enjoying the golden years.
He's enjoying the golden years. That's so
or
true.
In baseball's case, the leather years,
I mean, he's 68 years old.
Yeah, so he's about Buck Showalter's age.
Yeah.
No, he's not with anybody. So it's going to Wikipedia. So all right. So that's Subway Series coverage.
Mm-hmm.
We got some other fun things. Like I mentioned before, Rays Rangers rubber game today. 2 best teams in baseball right now.
I think Texas is better. They have the better manager. They have the better team. I think the Rays are overrated. I do.
That's your line, Dan. That's your line. They're overrated. I love it.
I do. I mean, look, a lot of these players are not as good as they seem to be. Okay, they're having career years. Okay, whatever. The Rangers are the better talented team. We know those players are good. There's half the people on the Rays that we know are terrible. But of course, they managed by statistics. So that's why they win.
By the way, they're the only team who should ever be managed by statistics, because they're the only team who make it work. So I don't want to hear people say, oh, the analytics tell you this. The analytics. No, analytics work for the Rays and Moneyball. Got 2 movies down here, Mark.
Both movies are great, but who would have ever said at the beginning of the season the Texas Rangers and the Tampa Bay Rays would be the 2 best teams in baseball?
I don't think anybody would have said it because I don't think anybody saw this coming from the Rays.
Yeah, no, I didn't see this coming from the Rays. I knew Texas would be better because they even getting deGrom, even though he's now hurt, and stuff. I knew they were going to be a better team. The presence of Bruce Bochy's manager,
100%,
is key. You can't tell me that the manager doesn't matter. It does. He brings that championship pedigree, man, and a kick in the ass on a team that underachieved. And this is the same exact team. Really think about it.
Yeah. Corey Seager, Simeon, they signed last year. This year they bring in deGrom, like you said, of Nathan Eovaldi, who's been great.
He's been terrific. I'm surprised the Red Sox did not even. And I know.
That's a big L.
It was one of those things where he's like, "Oh, I want a longer deal." The Red Sox said no, but then he took a shorter deal anyway. It was just he wasn't really getting that much offers. But it worked out for him. He's in Texas and he's killing it.
He's been great, but I'm agreeing with your point on Bochy. I think that's the most important guy you bring in. And I'm not even going to try to make this Mets-centric here, but it's similar to what the Mets did with Buck last year. The winning pedigree's not there, but the veteran leadership, a guy who knows what's going on,
right?
That's important on these teams.
Yeah, now Buck's taken a step back since, and that's very frustrating if you're a Met fan. But I know Bruce Bochy never takes any steps back. Like that
won't tolerate
always wins. Always.
Yeah, he's a winner. Somewhere Tim Lincecum is understanding that.
Yeah. Folks, I do have to run.
All right, Dan. It was good to see you.
Olaf,
Danny, always good to see you.
As always, good seeing you. Thank you again for always being with us and in spirit by sponsoring the show. Halpert's Cards and Collectibles. Please check him out anytime you want. And the Knish, as he's called in the card world.
Yes. Just think John Turturro and Rounders. Put me with some glasses and we'll get the curly hair poofed up, and there it goes.
Deuces.
Oh, man. All right, Dan. Take it easy. And then there were 2.
There were 2.
But I think the point on Bruce Bochy Dan made was the right one. All right. So some series to look forward to this week. AL East showdown. We got the Blue Jays and the Orioles.
Gonna be a fun again. The AL East. I don't care what it's like right now. There's so much volatility in that division alone that a simple week is going to change the standings. So any matchup in between those two, any teams in that division is gonna be fun.
One of the things, and I brought this up on this show, I brought it up probably in writing too, but I don't know if we've ever had the conversation. I want the Orioles, Mark, to do what the Braves do in their operating system. Buy out the arbitration years on these young players and sign them to these long-term deals.
It makes sense.
Henderson, they're good players. I don't want the Orioles to be in a position where they were years ago, where they had to choose between Chris Davis off his 50 home run year and Manny Machado, because guess what wound up happening? They made the wrong choice.
Right.
Sorry, Chris Davis.
I mean, not to take away from what Chris Davis said. I mean, 50 home runs is great, but when you're batting .211 and doing it, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly. But, the Orioles, second place, they have third best record in baseball. The Orioles.
Yep. And I said after last year, they are going to be a force to deal with this year.
Yeah. The Blue Jays, they haven't played great, but the talent's there.
They're basically a copy of the Mets. I mean,
you know what? That's a fair observation.
they're an exact copy of the Mets, just in a different league. You look at the lineup, and if you look, let's forget about the lineup. If you look at the fielding and then forget about the batting numbers, the fielding is all the same. I mean, and then put it all into the lineup. It's the same Mets lineup. Look what's happened to Alek Manoah.
Got sent to the complex league.
He's having Justin Verlander problems. Yasiel Kikuchi can't keep the ball inside Canada. I mean, it's a problem. I mean, I was big
outside of Kevin Gausman, they have issues.
Yeah, I mean, Guerrero. I mean, anything that comes off that bat is scorched. But
it's easy 100.
But they're pitching around him because nobody else is really hitting. So yeah, I think the Blue Jays are going to be the big surprise and are going to pull a Baltimore Orioles run and get the third wild card spot this year.
Love to see it. I think they're that good. So that'll be played at Camden Yards. Another interleague one, you get the Brewers and the Twins.
Which should be better than it should be.
I mean, listen, this is not to disrespect the Twins at all, but the AL Central stinks.
Mm-hmm.
The AL Central is awful. The White Sox, who should be dead and buried, are still alive. That's how bad the AL Central is.
Yep.
The NL Central, listen, I'm a little surprised by how well the Brewers have played.
The Brewers are always a yearly conundrum, and I want to say it like that because you really don't know who they are until we're into about July. That's when you find out what type of Brewers team you're facing, because there's talent on that team. It's not what it was 3 years ago, but there's talent on that team. But I think it's time to, in the words of Randy Quaid, back up the truck, fill it all in, get rid of everybody, and rebuild. It's time to do it for Milwaukee. Or Milwaukee's going to go through years where, let's face it, they could look like the Oakland A's.
By the way, they just lost 2 to the Oakland A's.
That's right. Pun intended.
Just to keep the major league theme going, Bob Uecker, still in Milwaukee.
Just a bit outside.
And for the Twins, listen, Sonny Gray's been really good in the rotation. Yes. They've gotten production in the lineup out of certain guys, but they need their big investment in Carlos Correa, who had a big home run yesterday. They need that to get going. But again, I'm not saying anything negative, but they're a product of the AL Central, and it's a terrible division.
Yes.
All right. More interleague. We get the Marlins going to Seattle to play the Mariners. How about the Marlins? Let's give the Marlins some love.
I mean, but this is typical of the Marlins, though. They have talent. They've had talent every year, in some form, whether it's been pitching or it's been batting. This is a Marlins team that is quietly rising to the top. And we're coming to that point in Marlins organization history that if trends are going well, the Marlins are 2 to 3 years away from a playoff appearance. It may be sooner.
I still find the thing about the Marlins that I find the most interesting, they have more World Series wins than they have NL East division titles.
Yeah, well, that I can't explain, but
they take advantage of the wild card. They know what they're doing.
The Marlins are deeply missing Jazz Chisholm Jr. right now, and I think he's not scheduled to be back now until the end of June at the earliest. The Marlins are right in the middle, so as long as they don't have a bad 2 weeks, you get Jazz Chisholm back right before the All-Star break, you got something there.
And Jorge Soler has found the power stroke.
Yeah, he's been good. Everybody on that team is just a friggin' word, is participating. It's not the word I wanted, but
it's
but
chipping in, chiming
yeah,
in.
chipping in. But the person who needs to wake up is Sandy Alcantara.
He was good yesterday.
Yesterday he was good, but a 7.16 ERA from a guy at this point last year at a
he needs to be
1.31
better.
ERA.
Yeah, he needs to be better. I still think they need one more impact bat in that lineup, but I have to give this guy Luis Arias, man, do it. Hit 400 this year. Let's
That
see
would be
it.
nice.
Oh, flip side, the Mariners. You want to talk about the same team? The Mariners and the Marlins are very similar. They have great young pitching, some pretty good young position players, and the Mariners are just waiting for the offense to get really rolling.
And for the naysayers out there that I've listened to talk about Julio Rodriguez starting this year and saying, oh, no, he should have went back down. The man was in the home run derby for a reason. The kid is a star. As of the last 2 weeks, this kid has been lighting up the field. I'm not saying he's Griffey reborn, but he's the player that he was advertised to be. I hate when people put down somebody when they're getting a chance. I gave Kalenic 2 years. That was enough.
They need more out of guys like Eugenio Suarez and Ty France. Those are the guys they need to get going. So Marlins, Mariners. You get the Phillies going to Arizona to play the Diamondbacks. Ooh.
And the Diamondbacks are stinging lately.
They are good. And they are fun.
They have a good fundamental ball club.
They are the National League version of the Orioles.
Fair enough. That's a good copy.
Young players. They're fun to watch. By the way, I don't care who's going to do it. Zach Gallen should be the National League starter for the All-Star game.
There is no question about that. He has been, not to take away from a couple other guys, but he has been the most consistent pitcher in the major leagues this season, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He averaging 6.8 Ks a game, and his ERA under 3. Come on, what a season!
Yeah, and last interleague one, we get the Guardians and the Padres, 2 teams that have firmly disappointed me.
Let's look at the Guardians. As they are as a team, and you just look at the names. You don't have to put them in order. There's talent there. I mean, obviously, Jose Ramirez being the forefront of that talent. But he's made stars, because they're pitching around him, out of Ahmed Rosario and Andres Jimenez. Yes, I picked out the 2 Mets that are on there. But you have quietly this Cleveland team, it beats teams when it needs to. It's just not consistent.
But the one thing they have that no other team has, well, certain teams have, they have Terry Francona. And Terry Francona knows how to manage Terry Francona teams.
Yeah, no question about it, as we've seen him do it through the Red Sox and whatnot. He's a guy not to be messed with.
Yeah, they have talent. And again, they're in the AL Central, so they have a chance.
Right.
The Padres, it's just, I know they've won 2 from the Rockies, but again, it's the Rockies. I'm not going to get excited. And until the Padres take 2 of 3 from
anybody,
the Dodgers, I'll say, okay, maybe the Padres are here. But
let's take the Mets lineup and put the Padres lineup right next to it. Anybody else see the same amount of problems and injuries? The Mets just lost Pete Alonso to they say a very deep bone bruise, 4 to 5 weeks. The Padres lost Manny Machado to a fractured wrist for 8.
Well, he's back, so.
Well, but I'm just saying, but lost him for 8. Bogarts has been the catalyst of that team this year so far. Fernando Tatis hasn't been bad, but I mean, he's still living under the problem from last year. So he's going out and playing. San Diego's a team that has all the pieces, but I just don't think has the urgency to win.
They're 6-4 in their last 10. They've won 3 in a row. They're still 8 back of the Diamondbacks.
And if you would have said the Dodgers, I would have said that's okay. It's the Diamondbacks, where you have a team that is next to the Yankees, one of the most high value pay teams in baseball, with the Dodgers coming in right there as well. There is no way the Mets, the Yankees, the Padres, the Dodgers are fine right now. 3 of the top 5 teams in baseball are subpar teams, and injuries have played a thing. Maybe the clock has changed the way they're used to playing. But
I think playing everybody
as an excuse. That you can't make that as your excuse.
No, I'm not making it as an excuse.
No, not making it as yours. I'm saying the players. I'm saying players can't make that as an excuse.
No, because it's great for the game.
Right. But I mean, look, let's be honest. I'm going to the Mets Dodgers on July 16th. I'm going to be very happy to know that I'm not going to be there 4 hours for a game.
Listen, I hope Clayton Kershaw pitches that day, because Clayton Kershaw's been great.
Trust me, that would be the most fitting thing that could happen to me. But you want to know who's going to pitch? Julio Urias is going to come off the DL that day.
They need him because he's been out. Dustin May's been out. Walker Buehler's out for the year.
And they're still at least alive.
Because the kid who they had pitched yesterday, Bobby Miller, I think his name is.
Yeah, their pitching is atrocious right now, but that lineup is unbeatable.
The top 2 in the all you need is the top 2, Betts and Freeman.
It's I think them losing Justin Turner was a mistake, as he's really starting to come alive for Boston over the last few weeks. I think he was the biggest loss for them this year. I mean, the biggest free agent loss, not injury loss.
But they bring in a guy like JD Martinez, who's hit really well as well. So I think those two kind of cancel each other out. That's what I'm looking for. They miss Trey. The guy they miss is Trey Turner.
Yes. I mean, that was the one move that when it was made no sense to me. I understand what Trey Turner is trying to do. He's trying to win multiple championships with multiple organizations, and he's going where the money's going. I mean, so would any of us. I mean, let's face it. He had a thing in LA. I understand they gave him X amount more money, but look where he is. He's in the Phillies right now. And not to say the Phillies are completely out of it, because they're not. The Phillies are worse off than the Mets.
Here's where you get me on the Dodgers, though, because they made the trade for Scherzer and Trey Turner, and they lost them in consecutive off seasons. They gave up Josiah Gray and Keibert Ruiz, 2 guys who are the fixtures of the future of the Nationals. Hey, Patchy, you're welcome. The Nationals were brought up on Batter Up. You're welcome.
They still suck, though, but that's okay.
Oh, all right. That'll do it for this edition of Batter Up, sponsored by Halpern's Cards and Collectibles here on the Sports Insanity Network. Check out the podcast version of this, Google, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Check us out. We're live on YouTube every Sunday morning with it. You can follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, at SInsanityReal. And go to the website, www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com, for great blogs, vlogs, planes, trains, and automobiles. Mark, thank you for joining us this
Mike,
week.
it was my pleasure. My pleasure. And I do have an update for everybody.
Ooh.
in less than 3 weeks, Charlotte will be back to do her one of one, and that we were going to produce twice a month, along with the Patch Man helping out. This will be Charlotte returning and getting to do the podcast she loved. And it's going to be a little bit more than just talking baseball cards, because I want the kid in her to talk about sports and what she thinks it's like, to make it more fun and interesting.
Because we're all kids at heart. Everyone have a great Sunday afternoon. We'll talk to you next week.